PBS Kids is the place for fun, learning, and
big red dogs and silly frogs and a guinea pig who's fun. We got Cassie and Owen, Curious George and friends for everyone. Learn with me and I'll learn with you, and of course we'll learn with Hooper too. Join him and Miss Laurie every day. We'll laugh and grow and learn and play.
the more you learn and know, the smarter you grow. So join Miss Laurie and Hooper weekdays on PBS Kids.
I talked about how Playhouse Disney had a huge impact on my childhood, which is true, but PBS Kids? That's my day one. I have so many core memories with the channel. I can even recall learning concepts with them. I remember learning about colors with Barney, Mr. Rogers taught me how to feel good about myself, and Mr. Robinson taught me how to avoid the cops. Zoom taught me how to be creative, and that episode of Arthur where he punched EW taught me how to treat niggas who disrespect me. PBS Kids had a lot of great shows, but today we're going to talk about some of the more forgotten ones. The Zula Patrol was a kids show that aired in the mid-2000s. As I mentioned before in my Big World video, I didn't watch Zula Patrol when it was on. I barely knew anything about it besides the theme song. The show deals with science, teaching kids about planets, stars, and galaxies. The animation is decent, although a bit dated, but the colors are nice, especially on Planet Zula. None of the characters really stood out besides Moto and Bula. Moto is the scientist on the team. He provides most of the educational value in the show. He also has a book that helps explain certain concepts, kind of like the Great Big Book of Everything from
My man Stan. Oh yes, my man Stan. Welcome to Stanley's World.
I only remember Bula because in every episode he says,
"This is a job for the Zula Patrol."
One quirk in the show that's kinda weird is that everything in space can talk.
I have a nice personality and
But they was there when I left, see?
Yo, Zula dudes!
And I spit or what?
Woo!
They had a pretty decent mix of villains, but none of them were that interesting.
Clarence the Iceman Comet, Blackie the Hole.
What?
Dark Truder and Trixie were probably my favorite. Their banter was always pretty funny. Overall, the show was fine. Though I missed it when it was on, I could see how others liked it. So who remembers Maya and Miguel?
This one's for you.
It was a solid show. I remember seeing it a lot as a kid. The characters were dope, Maya and Miguel were great, but my favorite was the homie Paco.
Ooh, Paco?
Also, shout out to my man Theo.
Mi hijo es negro. Negro.
It's also pretty funny. It has the same plot every episode, but it never gets old. Something I noticed while rewatching the show was how subtle and seamless the Spanish was. It flows a lot better than some of the other Spanish-speaking shows I've seen.
Sí, papi, sabemos que es una responsabilidad muy grande. Pero Tito, tú eres pequeño. I know I am little.
Why he gotta sound like
Locked in, that's like a booty hole.
Also, apparently, when Maya gets a great idea, I always thought she was saying SOS
SOS!
for some reason, but no, she's saying SOS. And according to the fan wiki, that translates to that's it. Something else of note are some of the notable voice actors in the show. Miguel is played by Nika Futterman, who plays Adam Lyon from My Gym Partner's A Monkey. Candy Milo plays Maya, as well as other notable roles. She was Snap from Chalk Zone, Dr. Wakeman from My Life as a Teenage Robot, and she plays the homie Cheese from Foster's.
I like cereal!
One of my favorite episodes was the one where they meet the kid with one hand, and everybody started freaking out about it.
Did you guys do all this? It was fun. Everyone helped. Even Tito, Linda helping her.
This reminds me of that Clifford episode, the one where they meet the dog with only 3 legs.
I know it probably looks strange to you, but I'm still a dog.
If I could go on a tangent real quick. Clifford was one of my favorites growing up. In my opinion, it was one of the best shows on the channel. He was a part of my big three: Clifford, Between the Lions, and Arthur. Nothing against Dragon Tales and Reading Rainbow, they were dope shows, but I always preferred Clifford. It has one of the best theme songs ever, Don't At Me. It had a very distinct sound. It reminds me of like a storybook, if that makes sense. It always had this fun, playful vibe. But yeah, I know I'm supposed to be talking about forgotten shows, but I had to show Clifford some love. Out of all the shows being talked about so far, The Adventures of Piggly is one that always stuck with me. For those of you who don't know, the show was about a pig named Piggly, who would tell his grandchildren about the adventures he had with his friends in Ireland. It's a nice slice of life style show, with a unique charm about it. I think what drew me in was how simple it was. It kinda reminds me of Franklin, or Little Bill, but with more personality. Piggly Winks also sounds like a weird Dan Schneider thing. Like, I can see it being a wacky, silly segment on iCarly or something.
Earthquake!
What the fuck? The designs aren't the best. These are some fugly ass animals. Their expressions are so stiff and robotic, locked behind these soulless eyes. The animation isn't much better, especially in how they run. Piggly running like he about to take the meanest dump. The characters themselves are pretty solid, except for Piggly. There are moments when his friends ask a question or are genuinely curious about something, and homie just flat out lies to them. And yeah, I get it, he's a kid, but this is some blatant lying.
Why do you suppose that treasure hunt clue was under a chicken?
Well, Fiona, lots of treasure maps come from under chickens.
Okay.
Also, something I discovered while doing some research. Piggly is played by Miley Flanagan, also known as Naruto Uzumaki. Yes, Naruto and Piggly Winks share the same voice actress. Moments like this is why I think voice acting is so cool. But yeah, it hasn't aged the best, but I can recommend it.
PBS Kids. Banana soup, ooh baby, do what you wanna do. Banana soup.
I never really cared for Curious George.
I'm not feeling it.
Not the books, not the movie, none of it. He was kind of boring. He was just a monkey dicking around. That's no fun. It wasn't as engaging as some of the other shows. The designs were nice and the animation was pretty good, but besides that, I don't really see the appeal. I do have a question though. Why didn't they make Curious George into a live action movie? It would have been a hell of a lot easier and more profitable than whatever the hell that Clifford movie was.
Jesus Christ, how horrifying.
An Arthur spinoff doesn't sound that bad, but I wasn't expecting this. The idea was Buster would travel around the world meeting a bunch of different kids to see how they lived. I vividly remember the episode where Buster left, and immediately afterwards, one of the first episodes of Postcards from Buster's aired. They made it as seamless as possible. On paper, it's not a bad idea. It helped add more variety to the channel while also showcasing different lifestyles and cultures. Something that always confused me as a kid was how the show worked. Like, from the viewer's perspective, this is Buster interacting with these kids, but in reality, that's not happening. So, who are these kids talking to? Were they talking to the cameraman? Was his voice actor there to feed them lines? Who was interacting with these kids? Imagine if these kids thought that the real Buster Baxter was coming to their house, and all they get is a middle-aged man with a camera in their face. The show itself wasn't terrible. I just never cared to watch it. To be honest, I didn't know anyone who did. Let me know in the comments if any of you actively watched Postcards from Buster. Apparently, this show had a bit of controversy. There was an episode made in 2005 called Sugar Time, where Buster meets several children who have lesbian parents, and former Secretary of Education Margaret Spelling wasn't having any of that shit. She demanded that PBS Kids return all federal funding that had been used in production of the episode, claiming that parents wouldn't want their kids to be exposed to the lifestyle portrayed in the episode.
See, now that's some bullshit.
They never aired the episode, but it does exist in VHS and DVD copies. Kinda gives you a new appreciation for the special Somewhat episode they would air 14 years later.
Yeah.
This is another show I feel not enough people talk about. Sagwa, the Chinese Siamese cat, was a kids show from 2001 about a cat living in China. We follow her day to day while learning valuable life lessons. Sagwa is one of those shows where I remember the theme song and I recognize the characters, but I can't tell you a damn thing about it. After watching a few episodes, one of the first things I noticed was that there are humans here. I thought this was a world completely populated by cats. I also didn't know she was royalty. The animation can be a little wonky, like how sometimes their eyes can be looking off into different directions.
Fuck you looking at, nigga?
But besides that, the show is fine. It's a pretty chill show, and it acts as a great introduction to Chinese culture. I can recommend it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember Word Girl being this good. Like, dead ass, this is a great show. Like, I legit might keep watching it even after the video's done. One thing that makes this show really stand out is how fun it is. I mean, just listen to the theme song.
Flying at the speed of sound, vocabulary that astounds from the planet lexicon. Watch our villains, here she comes.
It seamlessly balances an entertaining story while also still providing educational value. It's also pretty funny. The script is smart and well written. It has a nice wit to it. There's a little bit for everybody.
Hope Word Girl works fast. I've only got 10 minutes in my meter. What do you know? Free parking!
The designs are simple but still distinct. I love the thick outlines they use. It's a nice touch. The animation's good too. It kinda reminds me of Mucha Lucha in how loose and noodly they move. The characters are fun and memorable. Each one has their own unique charm. Also, does anybody remember Word Girl's mom acting like this? Like, was she always this hype?
Oh, and my resolution is to recycle more, and so the recycling center's on the way!
The recurring villains are pretty good too. This old black lady is a standout, but Dr. Two Brains is the best one. They play off each other really well.
Let me go! Not until you sit here and listen to my evil plan.
Fine, make it snappy.
Oh, it's snappy, all right, and it's gonna get snappier when I use my ray to turn the whole city into cheese.
Overall, the show is great. Word Girl is one of the most underrated shows on PBS Kids, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it.
PBS Kids!
And the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
PBS Kids is in a league of their own. No one's doing it like PBS. Nothing against all the other shows and channel blocks, but they helped mold an entire generation of kids that didn't have the luxury of cable. And for that, PBS Kids will forever be goated. But hey, you don't have to take my word for it.